Hey everyone, my name is Rooster, and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video, I'll be trying out the War Factory strat myself. I end up playing against it quite a lot because Factory Master, well, I encounter every now and then, and that's the only thing he plays, and a lot of people have started to kind of try and take over his playstyle, at least every now and then. And this game, it is my turn to try. I'm up against Lauman, who has been around for a long time, very strong 201 player. So a worthy opponent for sure, and you never really know what to expect with Lauman. He does like to experiment quite a bit on ladder. Ultra solid standard player when he wants to, but he does like to try out different things, and it's going to be no different in this game, as we'll see a little bit of a unusual matchup into the factory. You'll see. Normally, of course, Abyss is the counter. It's the one that I prefer as well, but here we'll see something a little different. Now, both of us start with sledgehammers. Both of us have marksman. He has some arc lights to begin with, but buys the marksman. And, well, it looks like we'll be on the opposite sides of the board. There is a mid-wall with a Chungus behind, so I want to try and avoid it as best I can. I have to admit here that my positioning isn't ideal. I should be putting it way more in front of the turret so that this sledgehammer doesn't want to get pulled towards the middle, kind of like Laumam is doing here. So, a bit of a mistake there. For me, I was expecting him to go on the empty side of the board, to be fair. But I should just be stacking more on the left side of the board. Now, my marksman, I am spreading out a good amount. As you will see that I am playing further backwards these days, ever since they've added buildings. Usually, I would have liked putting the sledgehammers maybe a bit further up. But now I'm trying to play further back because the walls tend to stall for a good amount. And it means that it's fine for your units to travel a little bit longer. I go for double fang because I felt like crawlers would probably just run into their demise into the arc lights, so late chaff here felt correct. I do go for one on each side just in case my opponent would happen to be on that right side, and that is exactly what happened. Now, when this happens and your opponent has a lot of slow units, it's where Stormcallers become really, really useful. So already here I was kind of looking to get a Stormcaller if I could, to stall the right side of the board, and then the Stormcaller kind of can take some pot shots, and well, you can see how clumped his army is and how slow it is, therefore easy to hit. Now we're kind of chasing each other around the map. My marksmen sadly go down. The sledgehammers are strolling around the battlefield casually, but they will end up dying. So round one here is not going to be in my favor. Round number two, we immediately get unit drops. And here, I didn't really know what to pick. I didn't necessarily want a Sabertooth. It's not good into sledgehammers, and his marksman insta-leveled, which is very scary. Phantom Ray, same thing. I could try and push in here, I guess, if I wanted to with the Phantom Ray. But I kind of wanted to try and get some value out of the drop if I could. So I was drawn more so towards Hound and Void Eye. And I was looking at my board and thinking, you know what? Maybe we just want to try and play a factory. That's where the idea came from, because I was looking at this and thinking to myself, well, factory is really good into sledgehammers and arc lights, and, you know, most things that the opponent can pick here, factory is good into as well. So why not try and play that, you know? And so with that in mind, I decided to pick up the Hounds because it tends to be a very good pairing with the factory. At least it's what Factory Master likes to do. Now, the sad bit is I don't have the correct tech loadout for this, because the tech you'd want is Incendiary Bomb, and I'm currently not running that. So I might end up changing it because I never click Armor Enhancement on my Hounds. I think I've clicked it once in the past 100 games. But yeah, I just didn't have it. So there's no fire possible here, which is typically what's good. But still, the Hounds are not bad. I do have some small amplifying cores that I can throw on them, allowing them to one-shot crawlers, at least normally speaking. Here we might struggle. 300 versus 307. Fortified Specialist there having a little bit of a break point. And yeah, you can see another Hound or another Fang in front of the tower to stall, and a Stormcaller, which are getting pushed around a little bit there by the late Hounds. But you can see that I'm layering everything quite far back. The Hounds as well, I allow them to move in slowly so that they can actually catch the crawlers that were added all the way in the back, instead of, you know, being up front and dying instantly. And this is an important concept in most games, kind of trying to read the pace of the game, like what's your goal. Obviously, if you're pushing in, then everything will be near the line, and, you know, you're trying to position around that. But when you're defending like this and kind of you know, having to make do with less units, less deployments, you often want to try and, like, stall for as long as possible. So you play back a little bit more, maybe you level the towers, that type of thing. Round number 3, advanced shield device, something I could think about. Efficient giant manufacturing, something I could think about as well, although I don't think it's good with factory because you need to buy 4 giants to make profit with this card, which is a lot. 4 factories is an awful lot, and at that point, making 50 extra credits is not that amazing. Now, typically people will build Abyss into you, and then you can try and build melters and, you know, get some value out of it, but I think these cards in general are not a must-have. It's the same with efficient tech research. You need 4 techs to make 50 profit. You know, that typically tends to take like 7-8 rounds, maybe even longer. And at that point in the game, getting 50 extra credits really doesn't matter too much. So here I decide to skip. It's round 3. Ideally, I would get a factory next round, which means that I need to save, I believe, 350 to be able to have 1150 next round, so I can unlock and buy a factory. This is without any of the discounts because I'm not a giant spec. So you will just see me have a very tame round here. Another hound here on the flank. I do position it in such a way that allows me to add a factory here between the Stormcaller and the hound. And I put a crawler here all the way in the back, and that's all that we do. Very tame round. Opponent goes for double Stormcaller. Sensible move. I mean, same thing, right? I have a pretty slow moving army, so he's just going for the same play. And now we have to see, can we reduce the damage taken? I did take the level on the Stormcaller because, I mean, as you can see, it was dealing an awful lot of damage. And hounds are doing a decent job so far. I mean, all of the crawlers were cleared, so I'm happy. That allows the Stormcallers to hit this blob of units. Look at that damage. Suddenly we go from doing 4k to dealing 36k. Another hit. We're up to 50k. And that was 2 amazing salvos with the marksman helping out as well. Now we're likely going to be losing here, as opponent still has some storms alive, an arc light, a level 2 marksman. We do get a debuff, but I'm very happy with how this went, considering that we kept 350 in the bank. That is not a bad result whatsoever. Marksman will take out the remaining Stormcallers, and I mean, this is pretty much a tie. Very nice there. Marksman gets stuck on the wall, but he will be able to take down the remainder of my units, and then the small turret takes down my last Fang. I can also see that, ooh, I have the shadows and such all turned off because I played one game of free-for-all, which always kind of messes up my settings, or at least I have to run them low because otherwise I have no frame rate. So apologies there for the lack of animations as well as shadows. They are now back. Round number 4, I decided to skip. Again, nothing too important, and well, I needed a lot of money to be able to buy a factory, which is exactly what we do. So there it is. Now, I was kind of trying to have a look at where I wanted the factory to be, and then I realized that this Stormcaller is just being very annoying right now. Like, it is blocking where I would want a potential melter to be, because the only thing I was afraid of is him buying an Abyss. Now, I'm not entirely sure if what I do here is correct, because what I will end up selling is this Stormcaller, which has been performing so well. And normally speaking, it likely would keep doing well, considering my opponent is not attempting to intercept whatsoever. It does, you know, refund a bunch of money, and it allows me to recruit more units, but now the factory has a lot of work to do. Laomam here goes for another Stormcaller and decides to pick up high explosive ammo, which is quite an interesting tech pickup. Should allow him to chaff clear a little bit better. He does have some arc lights in there as well, but interesting tech choice. I did have Missile Interceptor. I was thinking about picking it up down the line, but I'm playing Spawn Factory, and I don't really want to delay my other techs. Now, the most common first tech on War Factory is Steel Ball Production, because Steel Balls are just really good in general. They have a lot of speed, so things like Abyss can miss them quite easily. They have tower pressure, they can kill big units. And of course, they have Mechanical Division on the bar, which allows you to spawn even more chaff from the Steel Balls that you create. So that tends to be the priority, and it's why I'm likely not going to be clicking the intercept button there. We do lose the right side. Stormcallers still dealing a good amount of damage despite the high explosive click there, but not too bad overall. I mean, it's always an expensive round to get the factory down, and if we manage to clear most of these units, which we actually don't do, but still, we had 4k hit points, you know, that's not too bad for a setup turn. Now we have a ton of cash, and we can hopefully grab that first tech. Round number 5, Missile Strike shows up. Felt like a worthwhile thing to pick, considering all of the storms. I'm aiming for the level 1 storm here, because the level 3 would be able to survive a Missile Strike if it was level 3, and it did have a level available. And this is where Laomam decides to go for their Mountain counter to Factory. Now, the interesting thing about Mountain is that it has a lot more available DPS than the Factory, because all of its guns are facing forward. So its burst potential is much higher. Factory actually has better DPS if you count all of its guns. However, the back guns cannot shoot forwards. So that means that in practice, the Mountain has higher DPS, and it has a really just good matchup in a 1v1 versus the Factory. So that's the idea, I guess, behind this. They do skip the Missile Strike, which is quite nice, because there was a really good target to hit here. Crawler, plus Hound, plus Fang. And right now, sadly, I don't have a lot of money. I wanted to get Ball Spawn, and I sold a Sledgehammer. However, I have 50 credits. Too little to be able to afford a second factory, which is a real bummer. So here I am, I think, going to float a bunch of cash, because I don't know what on earth to do. I'm just going to buy some chaff, I think. I guess I buy a steel ball. And then that's about it. And a crawler. And I'll leave 450 in the bank. I ran out of time because I was like, I don't know what I want here. I could have bought a preemptive melter. I was thinking about that. Thinking, well, maybe I can, you know, buy a melter. And then if my opponent goes Abyss, I'd be in a really good spot. And I guess against the Mountain, it might have ended up doing a lot. However, you know, if the Mountain ever locks onto the melter, it will basically one-shot it. And I likely would have put the melter on the outside here. So it's debatable if it would have done enough. But yeah, a bit of a scary round with that much money left in the bank. But at least we'll be able to get a good turn next turn. Now, I see the Mountain, and well, here you can see how much damage it does, chunking away at that factory at an incredible rate. And, well, it survives with half of its hit points remaining. So, scary, for sure. Mountain even managing to pick up a level there, which I was really afraid of. But, well, I'm not the most proficient factory player, but I have tried to do this into Factory Master, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it eventually gets overwhelmed. So I thought to myself, well, let's try and go with the overwhelm plan. I have a lot of money in the bank. I saved up specifically for this play, so let's try and make it happen. I pick the Wraith, I sell it, it's worth the most, and then we just go double factory here. And, yeah, I decide to kind of try and stack them on his weak side, because I'm hoping to spawn a lot of steel balls, get the tower, and then overwhelm his Mountain with those steel balls if he doesn't put anything over there. Laomam also picks the Wraith, however, instead of selling it, he decides to keep it and wants to throw it into my tower here. Sadly, I do have marksmen, but they're all on the left side, so a good move from him. He also ranges his Mountain and buys another, indeed, in front of the left tower. But maybe we can still overwhelm. These are two factories after all. And, well, let's see if this debuff will do anything. The Fangs will turn, but of course they cannot do anything against that Wraith. Maybe, just maybe, we can push in fast enough on that left side. The steel balls, by the way, also have mechanical division. So when I say it's a big round, it really was. Double factory, up from 1 to 3, and mechanical division on the balls after, well, not having the tech for 2 rounds. And we do manage to at least break through. This is huge because it means that the debuff does not allow the Mountain there to survive for much longer and start chipping away at my factories. Now, we have a lot of steel balls alive still. They do manage to lock onto some units. They even managed to lock onto that factory, or not the factory, the Mountain rather, and take it down. Debuff goes through. Maybe my opponents can take down another factory. We'll have to see. My marksmen, though, they're getting pushed. And the factories do not let them through, so they will get caught by the Wraith, which is very low on hit points. So sadly, this will be a tie. However, the factories are simply far too tanky to care about these Wraith. And as they wiggle away, we will hit the end of this round. So 1,000 damage there, 250 taken for me. Round number 7. Nothing too impressive here. Shield airdrop could be okay, but it is quite late into the game. I decided to go for quick TP. I guess the reason for that is I saw that my opponent was really under defending his flank. No anti-air units over there. I mean, his board in general is quite weak to air units. And so I decided to eventually pick up a Phoenix here. I pick up another factory as well and try to triple stack on the left. He does the same, though, with his mountains. And I pick up a level, but he also picks up one on that right side mountain. Now, the right side is mostly just trying to stall. I don't expect this to win. I just hope to not get debuffed, while the left side hopefully can push through. And yeah, here we go. Phoenix picked up. I am loaning. Temp speed has been clicked. I think that's an important button to pick up on factories because, especially when you're pushing two sides, it allows you to close distance much faster and often grab tower debuffs, which can be quite useful. Now, the mountains are locked on, as you can see, but the Phoenix manages to push through. And with that, the steel balls get a chance to survive and take down some of these mountains, which is very useful. You might even be able to keep all 3 of our factories alive here as the second debuff comes in. And this is a massive round from the looks of things. Right side mountain, unable right now to lock onto the factory, will eventually take it down. But that's about all it'll manage, as it does fall, and that's 3 factories left alive on round number 7, which means over 1,500 damage dealt to Laoman. Very good round, happy with the flank there. We most definitely would have taken a lot more damage without the debuff there. We might have even lost on the spot, because triple mountain is really scary to deal with. Round number 8, orbital bombardment shows up, electromagnetic blast as well. And I'm thinking to myself, it's probably not worth picking these, because my opponent doesn't have a lot of small units. It's mostly the mountains. They don't care about orbital. The EMP will likely not land either, because, well, my opponent is likely to shield. The missile strike is back off cooldown. There was the orbital, there was the EMP. So instead of investing in a spell, I try to invest into my own board and just put down some bubbles here to prevent the EMP from landing, if that is what he picks. And that leaves us with about 1,300. We do sell the Phoenix on the flank. Not too interested in keeping that. The missile on the right side, which for now seems like it might hit. And at that point, the question is, what do we do? I wasn't really sure. I was thinking about Phoenix production, but I don't run EMP on my Phoenixes, and I wanted to try and EMP the mountains if I could. So instead of going for Phoenix production here, I decided to take range on the factories to, well, prevent them from getting locked on by the mountains and allow them to DPS a bit more safely. I also pick up range on my marksmen because I was, well, afraid that they would die, and I thought they had a pretty important role of covering me against air units, and I kind of wanted to try and grab electromagnetic shot if this game went for another round. Keep in mind that without the range, they get outranged by the factories, and they would likely get in front and just perish. I'd rather keep them around because they're rather high level. Right side still stalling. We do manage to hit a nice shot there onto the storms. I guess we could have hit the stormcallers on the left as well, the level 2s, but hard to know that. Keep in mind, both of our boards are very low on chaff clear. He has some arc lights in there, but it's mostly just the factories and the mountains doing the chaff clearing. I think the hounds are not doing too poorly though, but we haven't invested much resources into them. It's why Incendiary Bomb is so good as well, because it's just like, you click it, and then you kind of forget about the hounds. Let's see how this goes. Left side not looking too hot, but maybe the level 2 factory can make a difference. It does start chipping away at those mountains. I'd be very happy if I could take down one more. Maybe the marksman could finish them off. Doesn't quite look like it though. So from dealing 1,500, we now take 1,500 and change, because stormcallers are alive as well. And we're almost dead, sitting at 326. So, well, it does go one more round, but that's about all we're going to get. Round 9 surely about to be the final round of this game. We get unit drops. Both of us just pick one of the units that was worth 600 to sell. And, well, that leaves us with 2,100 resources. First thing I do is pick up that EMP I talked about. If I can get rid of the range on the mountains, which are all blue, by the way, that is very scary. But if I can manage to turn off the range, we might have a better chance. And I thought maybe he would try to pick up something like saturation bombardment here. So I thought maybe I could get a 2-for-1 in terms of text disabled. As you will see, I will try and move this war factory across because this was his weak side, and pushing into triple mountain just didn't really feel feasible. So now I want to try and stall on the left, and I bring over a marksman here as well to hopefully hit this mountain. We add another factory to the board. We go for loose formation crawlers, which will apply to both the crawlers on the board, of which we have quite a few, and the steel balls that spawn crawlers. Those crawlers will also have loose formation. The reason for this is that mountain doesn't have a lot of splash, and as I said before, his chaff clear is basically just untech'd arc lights and mountains. Very, very low splash, which means that loose formation should be quite useful. Opponent, interestingly, also goes for EMP marksman. I guess he was afraid of losing to air here. It did go through my mind, maybe I should buy an Abyss or something of the sort. I think it could work, but this is the play I ended up going for. Let's see if it works out. We hit a lot of power spikes here. EMP should be a big deal if we connect. Loose formation also should do very, very well. And this factory moving across actually now is kind of allowed to use multiple of its guns, as you can see. All 4 of its guns are shooting. Big deal. Lots of steel balls are getting spawned. Factory, though, might end up going down. It does, but thankfully my marksman has managed to get a lock on, so this now no longer has the range. And left side is stalling. Now, can I get a debuff is the question. This mountain also has been EMP'd. We need that debuff to keep our factories alive. One of them will fall. The other one will fall as well. And now it all rests upon the shoulders of these 2 factories on the right. We managed to snipe one of the EMP'd mountains. We are now moving in across. This tower is level 1. If we take it, it's 9 seconds of debuff. The marksmen are still kind of busy, but hopefully the factories will be able to help them out. The steel balls are starting to get lock-ons onto these mountains. They are being EMP'd by the 3 marksmen which are still alive. You might not see it, but it's kind of hidden there under the mouth of the factory. We managed to take down one of the mountains. We managed to get the debuff and clean up the battlefield. And with that, we actually do take a win. Very, very scary game. Could have gone either way, honestly. But we do manage to close it out. I think one of the crucial bits here was this flank with the Phoenix. I think if we do not go for that, I guess you'll be able to see it here. But if we do not go for that, I would have likely lost this round to the triple mountain. So that was clutch. On the final round, I probably could have gone for an Abyss as well if I really wanted to. But this play had a lot of, power behind it. We had the EMP, which we wanted to try and use, and it worked very well. And then we had the loose formation crawler as well, which I think was quite useful. So, yeah. Kind of a wild one, but a fun one. I hope that you liked it. If you did, please leave a thumbs up. Let me know down below in the comments what you thought about Factory and Mountain. Do you like playing either of these strats? Make sure to post it. If you want to stay up to date with this content, please consider subscribing. And if you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.